What's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome to VHB Engines. I had a right. First off, I want to say that I've been saying for like the last 2 or 3 weeks that this isn't one of the two videos I planned. This isn't one of the two videos I planned. Well, finally, I can say that this is one of the videos I had planned to do. I saw a question like several weeks ago that I didn't answer because I was like, well, I'm just gonna talk about it. Like I think I have talked about it enough a bunch of times, but I think it was fair to not make an assumption on that one on something I was thinking, so I did a little bit more digging myself. Okay, so stock 500 horsepower stock K20, 500 horsepower stock K24. So this is something I've talked about a whole bunch of times where, K20 stock 500 horsepower, So we're going to talk about that a little more in detail. I think this is not going to go too long. But anyway, so first off, I want to say if you really want to track the people that I know that are doing this a lot, is Humble Performance. I know they're not the only guys out there doing that, but they're the only ones that I know directly that are, routinely making 500 horsepower K series, on stock engines, right? And so the whole idea was the guy asked the question is like, do I need to upgrade my K20 pump to a Type S pump or to whatever pump to make 500 horsepower? And the answer is no, you don't. And at first I was like, well, what do you not get on that stock block thing about, 500 horsepower stock? No, so when we say 500 horsepower stock, it's stock. And now I know that like with B series, there's confusion there because people say, oh, stock engine, 400 horsepower, whatnot. But I think it's pretty common knowledge that around the 300 horsepower mark, you want to switch out those stock head bolts to ARPs. So a lot of times when people are making 350, 400 on stock B series, it's actually upgraded with ARP head studs. So the block itself is stockish, stock rotating assembly, stock sleeves, but they're using head studs to stop from blowing a head gasket, right? So this is why I say that it was not really fair on that person who asked that question to just assume that, yeah, what do you not get about stock? When you say stock, it's stock, right? But because, so I did some digging myself. Now, the highest horsepower that I seen was a dyno footage. It was in a forum, and the forum had a link to a YouTube video that's still up. And the guy made a cunt hair under 700 horsepower on a stock K20. There's a lot of people that have made, really, really high horsepower. I have a friend, like I've mentioned a bunch of times, Alex Thomason, who fucking does a lot of high horsepower K series stuff and F series stuff, and I mean like F20Cs, S2Ks, Fs. And he's like 600 horsepower of the stock rods now. And I've mentioned this also recently. I'm like, yes, you can make that kind of power, but then you got to think about the circumstances on how long that's going to last. Like your driving circumstances, how you drive it, the conditions, how often you're actually maxing out the engine's power. So there's that. So, but of course, we're not really talking about that. Talk about the 500 horsepower mark. So yeah, people are taking stock unopened K series, K20s and K24s and making that kind of horsepower. So we're not talking about an upgraded oil pump, even if it's an OEM to OEM upgrade, and we're not talking about upgraded head bolts. That's just the power they're making. All right. And it was after me digging around into that when I realized, because there was a subscriber who told me like a month or two back that he was going to send me head studs for my K20A2 that I have this built. Now that just got pushed to the back burner. So it's not a big deal because if you didn't see the live stream the other day, I said I'm moving ahead with the RSX. I need a running car, and if I wait to run turbo on that car, it's going to take me forever. I got to piece together a turbo kit, which is going to be more expensive than a B series. So I'm just going to run it NA for a while on a stock rebuild. I'm going to do. So yeah. The head bolts apparently can handle the 500 horsepower Mark II, and apparently even more than that, as long as you don't have an oopsie or a boo-boo moment. And that's really the thing. I just want to finish this on the topic here. Like, I know that 500 horsepower is something that a lot of people are doing, and I'm not against doing it. I probably will do it myself in the near future. The K20 I'm going to build and put in my RSX right now. Once I'm done with that in there, I'm going to swap over to an older chassis, and I'm going to throw boost at that stock setup. And I'm going to throw as much boost as I can. So the idea is going to be 500 horsepower on that stock block, but not right now. And so I want to say that you just got to be mindful if you're doing this, if you're somebody who's capable of building and you don't mind throwing away on money and you don't mind having the car do a rebuild every other year or so, then I would say then go for it. Throw all kinds of power at your stock engine setup and see how long it lasts. But if this is something like it's just a one-off thing, you don't want to have to worry about the car giving out or making a mistake and having it fail or whatnot, and you want to have more room for survivability of that engine, then yeah, go with pistons and rods. Just get yourself some forged pistons and rods, and then you won't have to worry about it so much there, because stock heads are doing all kinds of power. I mean, nowadays 700 horsepower on a turbo setup isn't like a crazy thing to see. Lots of people are doing it. So if you want a healthy 500 K series, you don't have to look at it twice. You don't have to worry about. Then just do pistons and rods. But yes, stock unopened K20A2s or whatnot and K24A2s, these engines are doing that kind of power without being modified at all. So yes, you can make that kind of power. And you'd have to do nothing to it to make that kind of power, except throw a turbo kit on it and some injectors. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope that clears up some of that stuff, and peace. I'll see y'all later.